The SNP MP Mhairi Black has used a Westminster debate on misogyny to reveal the shocking nature and scale of the abuse she's faced online. She repeated many of the insults that have been aimed at her, some of which contained the C swear word. She says that when such language is left unchallenged, it creates an environment that allows women to be abused. Please be aware that you're about to hear clips from the speech which contain some highly offensive language. If you don't want to listen, press your mute button now.
Misogyny is everywhere in our society, absolutely everywhere, to the point where we often miss it because it's been so normalised. I struggle to see any joke in being systematically called a dyke, a rug muncher, a slut, a whore, a scruffy bint. I've been told that you can't put lipstick on a pig. Let the dirty bitch eat shit and die. I could soften some of this by talking about the C word, but the reality is there is no softening when you're targeted with these words and I'm left reading them on my screen every day, day in, day out. She needs a kick in the cunt, guttural cunt, ugly cunt, wee animal cunt. There is no softening just how sexualised and misogynistic the abuse is. I've been assured multiple times that I don't have to worry because I am so ugly that no one would want to rape me. Now, all of these insults have been tailored to me because I am a woman, as a woman. Now, we can kid ourselves that these are a few bad, anonymous people on Twitter, but it's not. This is everyday common language. Now, I'm aware that everyone in here is uncomfortable at hearing these insults. I feel uncomfortable reading them out. And yet there are people who feel comfortable flinging these words around every day. And when it goes unchallenged, it becomes normalised. And when it becomes normalised, it creates an environment that allows women to be abused.
Well, after her speech, Mhairi Black spoke to Scotland Tonight. You were incredibly open and frank today. You said you felt uncomfortable reading out the insults. What made you want to read them out and talk about it today?
Well, I mean, today's debate was about misogyny and misogyny within our society, and I believe it's the job of government to set an example for society. So I'm thinking, if I am in this position of power and yet I am faced with this daily abuse, this daily sexualised language, this derogatory abuse, these bizarre situations like I mentioned in the voting lobby, all of these things, if that's what I'm experiencing, then what is happening in workplaces where women don't have as much power or as luck as I've had in my life?
You've been an MP for nearly 3 years now. What impact has this constant barrage of abuse had on you?
I mean, me personally, all it does is strengthen my resolve. It's a trait I've had from a young age, being a stubborn sod. But I think that what's important to point out here, though, is that this language is being normalised online now, and it is normalised to be able to be that derogatory about women. And I mean, I understand that we have, members of the public insult people in positions of power regardless of their gender, but when you tailor your abuse because they are a woman, then that's misogynistic, that is misogyny, and that's something that we've got to stamp out, and that is what my timeline is riddled with, quite frankly.
And what were you hoping to achieve by speaking out in this fashion so frankly today?
Well, because the reason it feels uncomfortable for me to say these things and for other people to listen to them is because we know it's wrong. We know it's disgusting. We know that we cannot possibly defend the things that I read out today. And yet, like I said, they are common. They are not strange. And to be honest, it was actually last night I got my laptop out and I sat on Twitter for 10 minutes and that's what I found. So who knows what I would have found had I actually dedicated some time to it. So by not diluting it, by forcing people to face exactly what I have to face every day and what women in all parts of society have to face every day, I don't really see how it's, that controversial.
You say misogynistic abuse is normalised, it's widespread, but isn't this just a small minority who hurl abuse on social media?
No, because you see, when you go online, yes, you've got a collection of it, if you like. However, the kinds of language that is being used online is the exact same kind of language that I hear in conversations. It's exactly the same language I hear in pubs. It's exactly the same language the President of the United States uses with no consequence. So, of course, we're kidding ourselves on if we think that misogyny is not present in our society.
And how representative do you think your experiences are, you know, compared to women as a whole?
Well, I mean, my experience in a practical sense is clearly very unique, but the personal experience, though, isn't unique. Being made to feel uncomfortable, you know, because I am a woman for some reason, to have two male colleagues publicly chastising me when I've been off ill and I've told them that I've been off ill, that's the kind of rubbish that women are putting up with in their workplaces throughout the place. I'm just lucky enough that I'm in a position where I can talk about it, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do just now, because many women have been, in fact most women have been groped or assaulted, whether that's verbally or physically. Most women have at some point either crossed the road because a man was too close or wouldn't leave them alone, or because he was talking to her strange. Quite often they'll change the routes to work. The burden is always on women, and if there's one thing that we're realising from things like the Time's Up movement, it's that it was time some of that social anxiety was shared with the male in society as well, and we can both reflect and talk about the problem that is misogyny within our politics and within our society.
Some people are calling for misogyny to be classed as a hate crime. What difference do you think that would make?
I think it would make a fantastic difference. I mean, this is something that the Scottish Government's doing a review on just now. I know that it's something that the UK Government's looking at as well, but in Nottingham recently we're doing trials of it, of gender constituting as a hate crime, and to me I was genuinely astounded when I realised that it actually wasn't already a hate crime, because to be targeted for a characteristic that you can't help and to have abuse tailored to you because of that characteristic, that's a hate crime in my experience. But I'm glad that we've got all the legal procedures and things in place to make sure that we're doing this properly, but we've got to do something.
OK, Mhairi Black, thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening.
Cheers.